welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the little program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. Bacon, bacon, bacon. It's amazing that we talk about the bacon so much because what they're really known for is their steaks.
Yeah.
But the bacon is just so
awesome.
Good.
Well, here's the thing. You go to a place like B&B Butchers, you expect the steaks to be that good, and they are. And even if you don't eat there, by the way, they are actually a butcher shop.
Oh, yeah, you can
go buy your cuts of steak.
Which is awesome.
Which are dry aged, and I don't know about you, but I don't have the facilities to do dry aging and stuff like that on my own steaks.
I can't do that in my closet.
So you will literally go by there, pick up steaks, and make the best steaks you've ever
made. Yeah, take them home, grill them, fry them in the pan, however you want to prepare
So if you pride yourself, I can make a steak as good as any restaurant. Yeah, you got to start with meat as good as that restaurant.
So the bill that's officially called Reversing the Youth Tobacco Epidemic Act, H.R. 2339, passed a House Energy and Commerce Committee's Health Subcommittee vote last week. We told you about this. Basically, this is the case where the bill would have prohibited the sale of all tobacco products outside of direct face-to-face transaction, which would have effectively ended catalog and internet sales for cigars because there's no face-to-face transaction involved. So on this committee, a representative from Florida, Kathy Castor, proposed an amendment that would exempt premium cigars during the hearing on this. And the Energy and Commerce Chairman, Frank Pallone Jr., we told you about this last week, immediately opposed the amendment, but he vowed to work with her on the bill's language if she agreed to withdraw it. So she withdrew, and then Pallone actually kept his word. And earlier this week, H.R. 2339 passed the House Energy and Commerce Committee. So it comes out of subcommittee. It's now passed committee. Now it goes to the House and then ultimately on to the Senate. It passed the Commerce Committee with an exception for premium cigars. That's the good news. An exemption for premium cigars. Drew Newman, General Counsel of J.C. Newman Cigar Company, said today's a huge step forward for the premium cigar industry because this is the first time that the Health Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives has voted to treat premium cigars differently from mass market tobacco products. So it's a good thing. There is, however, as there always seems to be, a catch.
What's the catch?
The definition of premium cigars that's in this bill right now are defined as having a retail price of no less than $7.
I don't even understand that.
What that means is that the cigar that I had today, because it was a $13 cigar, I could buy that one online. The cigar that you talked about having today, because it's an $8 cigar, you could not buy it online under this regulation if this becomes law. No cigar under $12 would be considered a premium cigar in the language of this bill.
That's absolutely abhorrent.
Yeah, I almost don't feel like we won any victory at all here.
So you can only smoke cigars if they're really expensive.
A minimum price of $12 per cigar is particularly problematic, Newman says, because the price of premium cigars varies greatly across the country due to different state tax rates, et cetera, et cetera. Additionally, the FDA's own data shows that fewer than 25% of premium cigars are sold for more than $10. So this would basically ban the internet sales of 75% or more of the cigars that are sold.
Just to stop underage premium cigar smoking.
Which is not a problem.
Which, by the way, we read early on in the show in a Captain Obvious moment after the government did quite the research and found out that, what was it, like 3% of underage, like under 18 at the time, had ever even tried.
It was less than that. It was less than
premium. It was some, like, it was negligible. It was like smaller than a margin of error.
It was within the margin of error. Yes, it absolutely was.
And they spent money, and I can only imagine. I bet they didn't spend $5 on it. They spent millions of dollars to create this information.
Not that I want them to get in and legislate this, but I bet you'd get a much larger percentage who had tried beer or who had tried bourbon or whiskey or spirits of any kind. Much larger percentage of underage doing that.
I'm willing to bet that there's a much, much larger percentage of underage people who've tried, I don't know, pot.
Oh, yeah.
or other illegal substances.
Absolutely.
Now I
Then
do
premium
understand that
cigars,
you
yes.
can't mail order those usually.
Yeah.
But at the same time, each state are making those legal.
The reason they wanted to cut out the mail order is because there's not a face-to-face transaction involved. So you don't.
They want to cut out the epidemic of 16-year-olds buying A.J. Fernandez cigars
online. Yeah,
online,
because you've heard that's such a problem.
It's amazing.
Ooh,
all right,
the nation.
Can any parents out there please let us know in real numbers how many times they've caught their kids getting packages from Cigars International?
Right, exactly.
Right, and
exactly.
had to discipline their kids.
And we will stand corrected on this matter if you do. I appreciate that. Okay, Ian, let's move on to something more pleasant. Let's move on to what's the matter?
No, I'm sorry. It's so stupid that I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
And then the government does this, and I have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it lowers my intelligence to even put my thought process on it because it shouldn't even be an issue.
Well, let me talk to you about something that may raise your intelligence.
All right.
Baker's 7-year Kentucky bourbon. I see you reaching for it like a good man that you are. I don't know if this raises your intelligence, but it certainly raises your level of cool, I think. And I don't mean to prejudice your tasting report before you even taste it, but I have a feeling you're going to like this.
We're gonna find out.
As you can tell, as you pointed out earlier when it was spinning on Mr. Twirligig.
This bottle looks well sampled.
Yeah, the bottle has been well sampled. There's no question about it.
It looks like there was at least one sample taken out of this bottle previously to today's discussion.
That was a big sample. If it was one sample taken out, I can tell you this. So this is from Jim Beam. It's one of their small batch offerings, and I will tell you, all of their small batch offerings that I have tried, I think are fantastic. So I expect no less from the Baker's 7.
Chocolate, baby.
You know, not only chocolate, but German chocolate cake is what I get on the nose from this.
I get that because it does have a little bit of a cake kind of breadiness to it,
and it's got just that. There's this chocolate flavor that German chocolate cake has that other chocolate doesn't have, and I kind of sense that. And it's also
a little bitter in the chocolate.
Also on the retrohale too.
This has a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? A little. It's chocolate. It's got a little bit of like vanilla going on.
Yes.
It's got
chocolate, maple, vanilla. It's really delicious. I will tell you, Ian.
But there's a cool little bitter that happens at the end too.
When it comes to bourbon,
almost like a grape skin kind of bitteriness.
Oh, that's really interesting. I don't know if I would have said it that way, but you're so right. When it comes to bourbon, this is really the kind of flavors that I sort of look for.
Well, this is very classic bourbon, right?
Yeah, it's really the right.
What does a bottle of this cost? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think it's in the 50 to 60 range.
Yeah, 60-ish.
Yeah.
This is outstanding. This is outstanding product. I mean, it's really
at that
hard
price
to go wrong.
range. It's really worth the purchase. I think
price to quality. Definitely 5.
Definitely 5.5 at least. You can buy cheaper bourbons, but there's something in the quality here that makes it feel like, this is worth. This
is definitely a step up, and you taste it. I will tell you, I'm a big fan. Some of my favorite things are buying $20 to $30 bourbons that are outstanding, and I love that. But
it's
sometimes,
fun to do.
Yeah, but sometimes you pick up something like this and you go, okay, this is crafted. This is a little
worth
higher
the extra.
end.
Yeah.
You can taste the difference in it.
It's worth the extra, but you didn't spend $100,
right?
Because you can do that very easily. It's very easy to spend $100 on a bottle of whiskey or even a bottle of bourbon. So
yeah, this is pretty big. It's a 107 proof, so that's a little bit bigger. That's about 13% bigger than most.
It would be interesting to compare this side by side to the Little Book, which is another favorite.
The Little Book, I will tell you right now, doesn't have the bitter
Correct.
on the end of it, and it's a little less heat. Like this has a heat that hits you right as you swallow at the end of the palate. It doesn't creep back in; it just hits you right there,
right
and
at the swallow.
Stays
You're right.
there,
and
then a little bitterness in the aftertaste, which is, and I keep saying this word bitter, but I mean this in a good way. Like some
positive,
some foods and some drinks and things should have bitter, and bitter in a good way, which really finishes the palate on this, but. The little book is all chocolate, but it's a silky chocolate.
But it's it's more like a dark chocolate or a baker's chocolate, whereas this is more of that
German chocolate.
I could go in German chocolate. I don't know how else to
I can go with that. It's a little hard to argue with that.
I guess German chocolate, I think of it as maybe having like a little bit of a coconut vibe to it. And I know we're going to, when we get to our final beer today, it's the Copper Kettle Brewing Snowed In Coconut Oatmeal Stout. So that should be interesting.
I bet this is going to go well with
also aged in bourbon barrels. So, yeah, exactly. I was just about to say we may have a pairing on our hands here.
This, that the bitterness on the end seems to be like I'm using bitter a lot, but let me go ahead and take about half of the bitter that I've mentioned out and say there's a little oaky astringentness to it.
Yes.
That I really, really love that oaky flavor and the way it leaves your mouth a little bit like I want a little more. It's like the astringentness of the oakiness is fighting with your palate and makes your mouth water for more.
Wow. It's got, it does have a Dorito factor going on.
Yeah. And I will tell you this, if you've got $60 to spend on a whiskey and on a nice bourbon, and you really, really want to sit down and enjoy and sip it, buy this.
Yeah, because you can sip this slow. It's nice and strong. You can just, enjoy little sips, and that $50-$60 can last you a long time.
Well, not only that, but it is also 53%. So you're going to drink it slower. And, I mean, if you don't drink it slower, well, heaven forbid, you're going to feel that. But you're going to drink it slower because it is bigger,
Right.
And this is something you sip on. You can add a little water to it. You get a little more volume out of it. A lot of overproof whiskeys, which is very popular right now, especially. A lot of overproof whiskeys. For some reason, people always think, "Oh, don't ever add anything to it." I'll constantly say, "Add water."
Right. Try it. Let it.
We drink it a lot of times very neat here, but at home a lot of times I will always try it like this, and I will always add a little water, and then sometimes a cube of ice after that.
Well, I obviously, because I've been to this bottle before, as you can tell, I really enjoy this one. It feels like I don't want to say a guilty pleasure, but it feels like I'm treating myself a little bit, and I like that.
There's nothing wrong.
I have more expensive bottles than this, but this one makes me feel like I'm treating myself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So
and this, I'm assuming this goes with almost any cigar you throw at it.
Pretty much anything I've ever tried, yes.
Yeah, because the flavor on this is bold, but it's not crushing. And so I can imagine a lighter cigar, a nice Connecticut wrapper on the mild side going well with this, but I can also imagine something reasonably robust.
The A.J. Fernandez you talked about today, the A.J. Upman, goes with this.
I bet it does. But I bet you could even go to a San Latano on this.
Probably could. Yeah, you probably could.
And still have it, complement and stand
San
up.
Latano, the bull, even, if you would.
This would temper some of the pepper in there anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And it would work really well. Let's jump back into our our brewery list here real quick. And then in our final segment, we'll taste that oatmeal stout that I've mentioned. This is the list from Pace Magazine of the 50 best breweries of the decade. The best American breweries, I should say, of the decade. So we were up to 40, so now we're at 39 from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. First time on the list, the Westbrook Brewing Company. They list their Westbrook Goza, the One Claw, and the Mexican Cake as their star things. At number 38, here's one you know, Ian. It's Bell's Brewery out of Kalamazoo, Michigan. Yes, they were on the 2009 list, and they list their favorite Bells as the Two-Hearted Ale, the Black Note, and the Arabicadabra. It's not Abracadabra, it's the Arabicadabra.
Arabicadabra.
I don't know that. They say Bell's feels like the sort of brewery where sheer consistency is both an asset and a criticism lobbed against them by a certain segment of the beer geek blogosphere. So, interesting.
Bell's puts out quality after quality.
Well, they do.
Like it or not, quality after quality.
Just ahead of them on the list at 37 from Milton, Delaware, also on the 2009 list, Dogfish Head, now currently owned by
that's
Boston
the wrong
Beer
one.
Company. Yeah, that's
not what I meant to hit. I meant to hit.
What did you mean to hit? Yeah, there you go. I love when we get the wrong sound effect. There's something just
I'm not laughing. I love Dogfish Head.
Beautifully poetic about it. They list their favorite beers as the 90-minute IPA, the Worldwide Stout, and the Raison d'Extra. For me, I would have had to throw in. See, I always want to call it Moonpools and Caterpillars, but that's not it. It's Dragons and Yum Yums.
Oh, Dragons and Yum
I think
Yums.
Moonpools and Caterpillars is another Flaming Lips reference.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of embarrassed that I dropped two Flaming Lips references on the show. Number 36, the Sante Adarius Rustic Ales out of Capitola, California. They list the Family Whistle, the Bright Sea Blonde, and Love's Armor. I love that I know absolutely nothing about this brewery because it just seems like it'd be so fun to find out more. You know?
Right.
We've had these guys on the beers on the show before. Weldworks Brewing Company out of Greeley, Colorado. Their favorite beers there, the Hefeweizen, the Juicy Bits, and the Medianoche. I think we've had the Juicy Bits on the show before.
Sounds right.
At number 34, Revolution Brewing out of Chicago. They list their favorite beers as the Straight Jacket Barley Wine, the Rev Pills, and the Eugene, which I believe is a porter. Is that right?
I just love anybody that's making a barley wine.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm for it.
They were not on the 2009 list, but they come in on this list at 34. At 33, out of Brooklyn, New York, Other Half Brewing. They list their favorite beers as All Green Everything, Broccoli Special Reserve, and Double Mosaic Dream.
I don't know what to say about broccoli.
Okay, you got my attention. I don't know.
All right, Other Half, send us one of those.
Yeah. Apparently, the craft beer scene of New York City has really heated up of late. It was considered a little underwhelming at first, I think, and has really heated up of late. So, Pfrem Family Brewers from Hood.
I think it's just
Pfrem.
Yeah, yes, with a P.
I say Pfrem because
we've had that. We've had some of theirs on the show.
We have. They list their Pilsner, their Helles Lager, and their Ode Bruin. I have, sitting in my refrigerator, a juicy IPA from these boys that I think I need to bring on the show very soon.
Pfrem.
Because, yeah.
Do you say
Pfrem?
Pfrem? I don't know.
You say Prem, you say Frem, I say Pfrem.
Tomato.
Live Oak Brewing Company from DeValley, Texas.
Nothing wrong with that.
Is in. So here's a Texas brewing company. They were not on the 2009 list. They list their Hefeweizen, the Pils, and the Oktoberfest. Now, I will say no slight to Live Oak, but I do, just based on the beers we've had on the show, which have all been good, but I can think of a lot of other Texas breweries I would put ahead of them.
All right, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to defend Live Oak on this.
Okay.
I don't know of a better Hefeweizen.
You are right. Their Hefeweizen is
their
outstanding.
Hefeweizen might be the best Hefeweizen I know of.
It certainly, for me, would be tied with the one made by the brewery out of Boston by Harpoon, the Harpoon UFO. That is a stellar Hefeweizen.
I've had UFO, and I'm not a huge Hefeweizen fan in the first place, but the Live Oak Hefeweizen to me is literally the one.
It is good.
Yeah.
At 30, the Perennial Artisan Ales out of St. Louis, Missouri. They were not on the 2009 list. They list the Abraxas, the Vermilion, and the Maman as their beers. I don't know if I've had any of those beers. I want to say I've had something from Perennial Artisan Ales, though. Do you remember?
I feel like we've had one on the show at some point in time.
Now, I know we've had something from these guys at number 29 out of Athens, Georgia, Creature Comforts Brewing Company. We've had one of their sours, I believe. They list their favorite beers as the Tropicalia, the Tritonia with cucumber and lime, and the Duende. So that's big on the Georgia beer scene. At number 28, Oscar Blues, baby.
Oscar Blues.
They are out of Longmont, Colorado. They list Dale's Pale Ale, the 1050, and the Hot Box Coffee Porter. Have you had the Hot Box?
I haven't.
I haven't.
I've had. They just put out a new one too, and I can't remember what it is. But I love Oscar Blues. They do so many good beers.
They really do.
They're Old Chub.
Old Chub is great. The Pliner, old style IBA, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Urban Chestnut Brewing at number 27 out of St. Louis. I'm not even going to try to pronounce. They've got all these great German Hefeweizens and Pilsners, and I'm just going to say go to the. I'm not going to
go to the website.
I'm not even going to butcher
yourself.
those because I will not get them right. They're not easy German words. Modern Times Beer out of San Diego, California. They list the Fortunate Islands, the the Black House, and the Fruitlands. I have had the Fortunate Islands when I was in Los Angeles and found it to actually be quite good. But I don't think we've ever done it here on the show. So, all right, so there's the first. We've now gone through 25. So we'll get to the rest in our next segment here on the show. And on that same segment, we'll be trying out Copper Kettle's Snowed In. It's the oatmeal stout in bourbon barrels out of Denver, Colorado. And yes?
No, I was going to say, hand me that, and I'll put it on Mr. Twirly Gig so you can stare at it during the break.
I'll do that right now. Also, I think I see the lid to the baker's over here on the far side of the room.
Yeah, that might have flown out of my hand.
All right, you're going to love this, by the way. This is a can of beer.
Oh, man, look at that can.
Yeah. That, my friends, is a can o' beer.
We have to adjust that a little bit.
We will be back to sample it in our final segment here at Smoking and Toasting, show number 164, as we count down for you from the list the 50 best breweries of the last decade.